Democrats delivered hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars to companies with ties to the Chinese Communist Party while forcing Illinois businesses to pay more. Democrats delivered the nation's third high.
That's Senate Minority Leader John Curran talking yesterday on the stage about Democrats giving a Chinese Communist Party-linked company hundreds of millions of tax dollar credits and other subsidies, while taxpayers in the state of Illinois are being asked to pay even more, especially those companies. Somebody who's been tracking the Gotion controversy in both Illinois and elsewhere is former state representative Jeanne Ives, and we talk with her now here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for connecting, Jeanne, and sorry about the technology. It's apparently one of those Fridays, getting all the bugs worked out, but we are connected, so thank you for taking time with us. And give us the latest here. What are we looking at when it comes to Gotion and the possible threats that it poses because it's linked to the Chinese Communist Party? Good morning.
Well, it's more than just linked to the Chinese Communist Party. The latest is that Congress, the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, which, by the way, Congressman Darren LaHood sits on, and so does Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy up here in the 8th Congressional District. They both sit on that committee, and that committee has just determined that Gotion is tied to slave labor in China. And they just had a good meeting in Michigan. They had an open roundtable discussion with a number of experts about Gotion up in Michigan. And of course, they also had people from Illinois testify as well. Amanda Piker, who is with Concerned Citizens from Manteno, she testified to it too. I think the most alarming testimony I heard there was that every single person who testified that had expertise on what China is up to literally said that China is a bad actor when it comes to Gotion, that Gotion is tied to slave labor, and that and specifically Ambassador Joseph Sella said that we are in a Cold War with the CCP. He said there is no distinction between private companies and state-owned enterprises in China, and that all parties involved in the Gotion deal are naive. So I think we need to relook the Gotion deal. In fact, it needs to end now, but we're not hearing anything from the Democrats on doing that.
Well, when Governor J.B. Pritzker took part in ribbon cuttings and announcements, it seemed to be all hunky-dory and tons of jobs are going to be coming and it's going to boost the state's economy and a whole host of other benefits. But we really haven't heard much of any kind of response from Pritzker or other Democrats who supported this, especially now that you've got Congress with these allegations of having connections to not just the Chinese Communist Party, but also slave labor. How integral is the taxpayer funding for all of this to Gotion actually getting things rolling here in Illinois and in Michigan?
Well, let's be honest, Gotion wouldn't have been here if it weren't for the massive tax subsidies that Governor Pritzker gave them. And going back a little bit, remember that in 2023, there were reports out that Governor Pritzker had been courting EV battery plants for a couple years, really since he had been in office. And he had lost out on 18 previous EV battery deals. So he went to the legislature and he said, look, I need a deal closing fund. I want this fund to be about $400 million, and I want to be able to make deals in order to attract the types of businesses that I want to attract. And those, of course, are those in the green energy scam businesses, including electric vehicles and electric vehicle battery plants. So finally, they do this deal closing fund. They sign that legislation after it was passed in a lame duck session in early January of 2023. And within 3 weeks, he is doing what he needs to do, which is seal the deal with Senate President Harman and also Speaker Welch. The deal closing fund said he just had to notice them that he was going to use some of that money. So those Democrats alone were making a decision on where $400 million would go. And the first tranche of that went to Gotion. So Forward about a few months, September 8th, they have this massive 1 hour long press conference rolling out the whole Gotion deal. You've got Chen Li, the Communist Chinese Party member there, along with other folks. You've got ComEd there. You've got the gas company there, all promising much, much more in infrastructure improvements that no other business is getting, but Gotion's going to get it. And then come December, the first check gets cut to Gotion from the deal closing fund. That's a $50 million check on December 8th. Another one follows up just a few weeks later on January 2nd of this year for $75 million. And voila, Gotion is sitting on $125 million cash payments from the state of Illinois taxpayers to do whatever they want to. And, you know, at that meeting that was about a year ago, they promised they would be operational this year, really assembling EV batteries and moving them out the door. There is no way that that is going to happen in this time frame. They could literally have banked our $125 million and made millions more off of our money while doing nothing to provide the jobs that they were promised. So I think it's all a scam. The industry is failing. We know this. And he's made taxpayers venture capitalists in a failing industry.
We're talking with former state representative Jeanne Ives, and I want to take a moment a little bit later on to have you share where your words are being found on the air and elsewhere. But still on Gotion here, clearly, you know, the taxpayer subsidies trouble a lot of people. The connections to slavery and the Chinese Communist Party, you know, concern a lot of people. But what kinds of threats, other than just the optics of being connected to slavery and the CCP, and the hundreds of millions of dollars, not just in state tax dollars, but also federal tax dollars that are going to be subsidized for these types of operations. What other danger is there, especially when it comes to, you know, the Chinese Communist Party and the threats to freedom around the world?
Well, one of the other experts there, Brian Kavanaugh, he said that China companies are required to spy on the U.S. citizens and other companies. They're required to spy. And we also know that they steal our technology. This is a well-known fact. So that's concerning. We also know that not that many miles away from the Gotion site in Manteno is a large Air National Guard base where there a number of assets, military assets reside. That's a problem too. Not to mention, if you look at what they're trying to do, is they're basically trying to undercut our U.S. market in this technological space of EV batteries. It's like they do with everything. They are subsidized by their own government. They produce a product that is literally below market rates. And then they try to usurp U.S. companies and basically push them out of business. And that's what they're doing. There's no doubt about it. And there's no doubt that they would not be here in America if it weren't for the Inflation Reduction Act, which actually did the opposite thing. Of course, this was a massive multi-trillion dollar act that Congress passed that did the opposite. It actually created inflation. But in that bill, there were, I think, $400 billion worth of tax incentives for this type of technology, batteries, EVs, green energy, you name it. And so they're trying to grab onto those tax subsidies. And then you have our own governor come in with $500 million of tax subsidies. No other company's getting this, by the way. And as far as that deal closing fund goes, I've looked into it as much as I can because this is not transparent. It's not easy to find this information. But of the $400 million that they started with, $125 million has gone to Gotion and no other company at this point. Now, early in May, they also announced that they are going to do a massive deal with Rivian, $827 million to prop up a company that has never made a profit on a single vehicle that it's rolled off. Never. And in fact, 5 days after he signs that deal for $827 million to Rivian, it's announced that Rivian lost over $38,000 per vehicle in that first quarter. So we're investing in industries that cannot stand on their own. These are now basically state-subsidized, state-supported industries. That's the definition of socialism. But anyway, Rivian was also promised a cash payment of $75 million as part of this, their big deal. I don't think that's the end of it. Stellantis. We know Stellantis is attempting to build or wanting to take its Belvedere plant that it shuttered just a few years ago and turn it into an EV vehicle plant, turn it into also build a battery plant there. They promised a $5 billion investment. And we don't know what Governor Pritzker has promised to them for another industry that's failing. Lion Electric just is failing. They announced massive layoffs. Stellantis announced massive layoffs for their gas-powered industry. Now they're going to come into the EV space in Illinois. None of this makes sense to taxpayers. It's garbage.
And taxpayers not just footing the bill for that, but also you had businesses seeing higher taxes in the state of Illinois as well, as Senate Minority Leader John Curran talked about briefly on stage yesterday at the Republican Day at the Illinois State Fair, where I ran into Jeanne, and it was good to see you. And Jeanne, you've been busy. You, of course, got The Real Story and a whole bunch of other outlets. Tell us where people can find all your work.
Yes. So our website is breakthrough-ideas.com. And I think, Illinois' best education and cultural writer, Lori Higgins. She kind of covers that space. And I cover more of, state policy, other items in that area. And you can find everything that we've written about Gotion. You can find videos. We do of something I call Reveille, which is a 2-minute rant about what's going on in Illinois. You can find all that information at breakthrough-ideas.com. And my radio show is on AM 560, Sunday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. It's a live show. I invite callers to connect with me there, too, and we cover a myriad of topics.
Well, always good to talk with you, and we'll definitely conversate on this and more in the future. Jeanne Ives, former state representative. Find more at the website again one more time.
It's breakthrough-ideas.com, and please visit our dumpgotion.com website. This is where you're going to get a lot of the information specifically about Gotion. dumpgotion.com.
Greatly appreciated. Jeanne Ives. We'll talk again in the near future. It is Illinois in Focus daily here each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to subscribe to America's Talking Network, and we'll do this each and every weekday morning, even up in Chicago for the Democratic National Convention. So we'll have live shows each morning. Likely going to have to start those a bit early so that we can get going to our coverage and tracking everything that we need to know to get out to you guys. All right, so like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm Greg Bishop. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air, and follow Illinois in Focus, even in the podcast space. All right, have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day.